Juices. I heard juices.
Me too.
Juices. I think we don't have that.
So we'll call the meeting to order at 10. The town of Smoky Lake respectfully acknowledges that we are situated on Treaty 6 territory, the traditional lands of First Nations and Cree people. And we'll move to adopt the agenda. Are there any additions or deletions? Dawn?
I'd like to add 13.1 Christmas light up to council agenda.
No?
I'd like to add a closed session, 14.6. Curling rink under FOIP section 16, disclosure harmful to business interests of a third party.
Any other additions, deletions? Oh, Marianne, sorry.
Yeah, so I would like to add two for council consideration, please. I believe under closed session, so 14.7, the Smoky Lake Pumpkin Patch Co-op Daycare, with section 27, privileged information. And you can correct me if I'm wrong on the voice. And the second one, I guess, would be 14.8 would be personnel, VoIP 17, personal privacy.
What did you put 14.7 under?
That's legal. Legal.
14.7.
No, sorry, section 27, the daycare one.
Is it
Legal and other privileged information. Does that sound accurate for you?
I think so, and it's pertaining to the motion that we had back in June, or
Okay.
Is that okay then?
Yeah.
Okay. All right, Carrie? Additions or deletions, otherwise I'll have Terry make that motion.
You want any more on that one, or are you good?
I'm good.
I'll move to accept with the additions.
All right, all in favor? None opposed, so carried. We'll move to the adoption of previous minutes and action lists. So 3.1, organizational council meeting minutes from October 21st. Evelyn? Did you, go ahead.
I'd like to make the motion to accept the October 21st, 2024 organizational council meeting minutes as presented.
Did you want to discuss them?
Yes,
Okay,
please.
Marianne?
Thank you. So just, and maybe just a question to administration, at this time on page 10, under the motion 553, is there a chart that should accompany the org meeting minutes that outlines the committees, or?
You know, it's actually probably not a bad thing to actually have it attached
in.
in here. I agree.
Yeah.
Yeah,
so
because
it-
otherwise the record's
The
not actually there.
motion references the
Yes.
attachment, but I don't believe there's an attachment.
Yes, we'll add the attachment. Thank you.
Thank you.
Sorry, I have a stiff neck, so.
Oh, sorry.
If I look a little awkward, I'm just a little, yeah. Just turn this way with my chair.
Thank you. All right, so we'll amend the motion to, okay. All
So yes.
with the amendments. Okay, all in favor? None opposed, so carried. 3.2, October 1st, 2024, regular council meeting minutes. No,
Make motion to accept, the October 21st, 2024 regular council meeting minutes.
right, all in favor? And none opposed, so carried. And 3.3, October 21st, 2024, organizational council meeting action list. Marianne?
I'd like to move to accept the October 21st, 2024 organizational council meeting action list as presented.
All in favor? None opposed, so carried. 3.4, October 21st, 2024, regular council meeting action list. Terry,
I'll move to accept.
all in favor? All opposed, so carried.
Madam Chair.
Oh, Marianne?
Yeah, no, that's fine. So for 3.5, if you don't mind, in terms of the rotation, I'd like to move at this time and I'd like to have the support of council. I'd like to move to defer these minutes to the next regular council meeting on November 25th. And if council so desires, I can speak more to this on
Yeah, that was gonna be my question.
14.5.
So defer to what, the next one?
November 25th is our next meeting, I believe. That's okay.
Marianne, Evelyn, sorry.
So it's my turn for the motion. So do you want me to well, just to keep us in order, so would you like me to say, I move that the town of Smoky Lake defer the October 30th, 2024 special council meeting minutes until our next regular council meeting, which is on November 23rd.
5th.
25th.
All in favor? None opposed, so carried. All right, we'll move into our delegations. Are you ready? Lily, or do you want your time to?
So this isn't on Crystal, the presentation's not on our own laptop, so let's.
That one I was gonna do second. That's fine. Well, you just need to log.
No, we received it after the agenda went
Oh,
out, so
okay.
it's not in there.
I just thought I'd follow it.
Yes.
I thought it would be better to provide information here and surprise you.
That way we don't have questions for you.
Not prepared anyway.
Thank you.
I can handle it. Yeah.
No, thank you.
Is there any more? Does anyone in the gallery want to copy it?
So I'm here as a representative of the Regional Heritage Board. Raymond's also on our board. One goal, when we look at all of the various mandates that we have, is to contribute to the sustainability of municipalities through heritage-driven economic development. Our values are conservation, building awareness, protecting heritage as a sense of place, adding to the community's viability by preserving it and sharing our cultural heritage. I've written in some purposes and functions that come out of the bylaw. We also have mandate that comes from the Heritage Management Plan. Second page. So the reason that we're here is in response to the town's request for us to partner in managing the train station. We do feel it's the responsibility of the town to look after the train station. However, the board can provide advice toward the management of historic aspects of the train station and public awareness of heritage surrounding the train station and information center. And if you look at our purposes and whatnot, it's to manage built resources, advise municipalities, stimulate public interest and knowledge in heritage, and collaborate with partners, including municipalities. So we will collaborate with the town to manage the train station and develop new ideas. A small committee of our Regional Heritage Board has already done work this year. So we went into the train station and did an assessment of what we had and where we wanted to go. So the following items were done. Items not belonging to the historic CN station era were removed from 3 historic rooms. These 3 historic rooms were cleaned, small items were rearranged in the telegraph office, to give the appearance of current use, and historic displays were created in the baggage room. So the 3 rooms are, when you walk in the back door, there's the waiting room, and then there's the station master's ticket office and the baggage room. We had various things in there, a souvenir cabinet and visitor information stand and that kind of thing. So we moved the visitor items into the front of the train station, into that room. We contacted Fort Edmonton Park, Ukrainian Village, and asked them to supply brochures. Because what we saw was that there was a lot of British Columbia pamphlets, okay? So we did keep a good majority of them, but the ones way off in Vancouver and on the west coast, we removed. And then we added our own, the town's walking tour, the Iron Horse Trail, they did have pamphlets, they bring more in every year. The Fort Victoria provincial site, we added that. The Victoria Home Guard Historical Society, we added their Victoria District map. And the other thing we did was we created a Nicholas Gavinchuk photo gallery. There had been a lot of pictures on the wall in the baggage room, so we had those moved and the main room there was set up with the photo gallery. So we did all of this in preparation for the town's event celebrating the train station. Now, I put in some suggestions here on page 3. These are suggestions only. We envision these further enhancements. Curate objects that are currently on display. So that would be identifying, labeling, researching their function. Because right now there are a whole lot of items there and we don't know what they are. And the people who work there in the summer don't know what they are either. Paper artifacts could be displayed in the station master's office. And a uniform, there is a uniform there, could be placed on a mannequin if we can get both of one. And the signal arm should be attached to the exterior of the station. That's all number 1. 2, retain the integrity of the historic rooms by ensuring modern objects such as garbage pails, handmade signs, coffee cups, cleaning items, food, office supplies, etc. are placed in other areas or out of sight. 3, ensure visitors feel welcome, give a friendly greeting, have them sign a guest book, offer water, Wi-Fi, and maps of the region. We currently don't even have maps of the region in there. Offering snacks for sale at the site may not be prudent, since it would be more beneficial to encourage visitors to support local businesses. There is a little shelf of pop and chips, and we think that maybe that's not the best place for it. There was also a receptacle for donations, and we're not sure where the donations might have gone, but the income would be minimal, and it's probably not the best thing for visitors to come in and see a donation jar. You can set up the kitchen as another historic room. There's already an antique stove and cupboard in there, and there's a box of dishes, so those could be set out. 5, now this is just going further, okay? A lot of interpretive centers have videos. When someone comes in, they can watch a video and it'll show the historic part of the town developing, that kind of thing. So offer a brief video relating to the history of the railway and its role in developing the Smoky Lake community. Also, just as added little features, this is something, you know, it's going to take some thought and a little bit of money, but short videos or audio recordings activated by touch by visitors could have audio recordings of people in our community, the elders. It could be placed in a suitcase or on the baggage cart. 6, ensure staff are very knowledgeable about local businesses, recreational opportunities, and historic sites. 7, decide if the children's program that takes place at the station aligns with the objectives of the board and the town regarding the heritage building. You could just have the train theme. 8, third person could be hired for the summer season with another person on staff. Other historic resources could be opened during certain hours or upon request. Now, this is outside of the train station. So, in addition to us managing the train station, we did have a business person come in and tell us that there should be more access to our heritage resources. So this is where we would collaborate with the county as well. Okay, so there's the museum, which is on the town property, but there are also a couple of heritage sites that are locked all the time. So this person said there could be some way of having those open, and we're thinking possibly that a third person could be hired, a summer student. And that's where, don't worry, I'm going to go to the county and ask for that third person. But we would use all three of them, shuffle their schedule so that those buildings could be available even on weekends. Now, in association with the train station is Pumpkin Park and Iron Horse Trail. So there could be some things that we do there. Sculpted giant pumpkins are a tourist attraction, but does anyone know why? There could be a story written about it. And with our distribution of information, you can have it on pamphlets, you can have an interpretive panel right there by the pumpkins, or you can have QR codes. Okay, the current Iron Horse Trail pamphlet tells little about Smoky Lake. And although there is a website that describes what can be seen along the trail, the town should be promoting what it has to offer. Okay, 3, visitor information. Just a suggestion. A sign along Highway 28 would direct travelers to a tourist information center. Consideration should be given to having a kiosk. Websites can't entirely be relied upon to attract visitors. Knowledgeable and engaged summer staff is central to a positive visitor experience. So we're not talking a huge information center, but if there is a kiosk right at Highway 28 and 855, then when people stop for gas, they can just go there and see what there is in town. So all of these are suggestions, but our recommendation to discuss these suggestions is that we should have a committee. There would be a couple of representatives from the town and a couple from the Heritage Board. And those people would devise a plan that includes goals and objectives and strategies to achieve the plan.
Thank you.
Yeah.
That was excellent.
Thank you, and I didn't have the fancy photos with this.
Yeah, you've done a nice job. It's really good.
Any questions?
Who's the town's point person on the Smoky Lake Tourism Company,
Which one, MCC or the tourism company?
the tourism company? The one you put 600 grand into taxpayers did.
There's 2.
So, I mean, if you look at what little information there is on that organization online, you know, one of their goals is to be promoting heritage. So you think that company, whenever and wherever and whoever it is, should be involved in this kind of stuff.
So, and if I may, so thank you, Graham. And so we do have Amy and Mel, we have 2 people on the tourist company,
No.
or sorry, just Amy on the tourist company. I get it confused. So I'd like to ask Noreen a question or not make a statement, but ask a question. Could, based on what you think at this point, could everyone in this room, elected officials and admin, is there some value or could we benefit by having you walk us through that building? I've had the privilege of being there and volunteering, and I think Amy as well, but the others, we might not know what the vision is for what you're suggesting or recommending in terms of, I don't know where the others are at, so.
Certainly, if you wanted to set up a time to do that.
And does our admin feel that would be a value or?
Yes.
do some brainstorming, like if there's an appetite to do something upstairs and maybe there's potential for grants as well.
Mhm. Mhm.
Evelyn?
To go back to what you're saying, instead of the Smoky Lake Tourism Company, I think there's two different groups that we should be aligning more closely with instead, and that's the Alberta DMO, the Destination Management Organization. I sit on that board, and I think that's actually much more closely tied to what you want to do, because that's tapping into, that is promoting tourism. That's our tourism arm right now for all of the Lakeland. And I'm also gonna say, Iron Horse Trail, you brought it up frequently in this, and that's also a board that I sit on that we should be collaborating more on, because they're putting QR codes right now on all of their signs along the Iron Horse Trail. So, and Outer Spatial, that's why I was grabbing for my phone during your presentation. There's an app called Outer Spatial, and they actually would like to have all of the information that you're talking about right now. So there is, again, this is where there's so many different groups that are working, maybe a little bit too independently, but they can actually start talking to
Yeah,
one
I
another.
mean, going back to the mysterious Smoky Lake Tourism Company, I mean, who is that? What is it? Who's on it? When are we gonna see a return on
Can I
the
answer that question?
1.8 million that taxpayers of the county have put into it?
That's not correct information that you're saying 1.8 million. The town and the county both made a municipal controlled corporation, with each one putting in 590,000 in seed money, and another 10,000 each went to the shares of the corporation. After that, the tourism corporation is in the process of setting up. There's no money been forwarded to it. All the money is sitting in, our money and the county money is sitting in an account controlled by the municipal corporation. So that tourism corporation is in the infancy stage of getting set up.
So
And
it's not a working
Up and
entity
running,
yet.
not yet.
it's not yet.
Okay, when will that happen?
We're not sure. There's a lot of pieces changing, and actually it's on our agenda later this afternoon.
Because,
And the others-
everyone keeps talking about this thing, it's been going on for years.
Yes, it
has
has.
been.
And there's no concrete
Nope,
No, not
evidence
yet.
that anything has happened.
that's right.
That's right. A lot of pieces that move.
Extremely. a lot.
Like, it's just, yeah.
So if we want some action, we'd have to do something ourselves.
Well, no, like Councillor Cope said, those options that she has, they're up and running
Right,
Yeah, we
day in, day
can-
out.
We can also
Yeah, we really
collaborate
should.
with the Iron Horse Trail, yes.
Absolutely.
Or is it the Riverland, what do they call that one?
Yeah.
And that's it, yeah,
DMO.
Riverland Recreational Trail
Yeah.
Society, which I also sit on the board for as a volunteer, and that's the society that's associated with the Northeast Muni Corps. So that is where we should be collaborating, especially because Travel Alberta is going to be investing a lot more money in this area because of the Iron Horse Trail, which is perfect, because you're right, when we're talking about the CN state.
So if we form a committee, we can hash all this out, right?
I was just gonna say, so later on in our meeting, we're gonna be discussing your delegation, but I love the idea of having a committee and kind of figuring it all out at that time. But yeah, later on in the, so.
Okay.
Good. Thank you, Noreen.
Thank you very much.
That was excellent, good work.
Now?
Thank you for all the work that you put into that. Get you hats or something, you need to change hats.
Yeah, well, it's the Regional Heritage Board again. And thanks to the town, we have been able to install a nature trail. So let's go to the next slide. So why would the Heritage Board put in a nature trail?
Okay.
Hmm?
Can I just get you to pause for a sec?
Because
Getting a reflection from one of these windows.
Because we're supposed to preserve and promote heritage that is not only built, but also ecological and cultural. So here we could increase awareness on the significance of White Oak Creek in our region cultural heritage. We can provide the public with knowledge of our natural heritage and ecology. Bonus, it provides our residents and visitors with an opportunity for improved lifestyle through healthy recreation. And we could also tie it into tourism as well, right? Okay, this is the natural attributes in case you're interested. It's got the location, it's in the Alberta Boreal Natural Region, Mixed Dry Wood Subregion, B2 ecosite. Which means majority is aspen and spruce. White Earth Creek meanders through this land in the drainage basin for the North Saskatchewan River. It may not look like much, that skinny little creek, but it's important. Okay, here's an aerial view. Now you can see the town is down in the corner. So if you go on Highway 28 up to the Golf Course Road, you keep going up there and it's on the road above the creek. Okay. Heritage significance. The spruce aspen woodland contains riparian wetland, an open water course, and a large central area that was cleared and cultivated with a mix of grasses. White Earth Creek on this site was a source of water for the town of Smoky Lake. The creek feeds into the mouth of the North Saskatchewan River where Fort White Earth began in 1813 by both the Northwest Company and the Hudson's Bay Company. So there's
Never
historic
knew that.
significance for the creek. That's right down at the mouth of the North Saskatchewan. The White Earth Creek goes a long way. And we're in that White Earth Valley there. Okay, so here is the aerial view of the actual trail. So there's a lot of field, like I said, it was cultivated in the middle, but it's not rectangular, lucky for us. So it meanders all along the tree line, okay? So you've got field on one side and trees on the other. There were occasional spots where there were some skinny little trees and we snuck through to make the trail, yes?
Just as a point of reference, that brown line going horizontal across there,
That's
that's the road allowance.
Lover's Lane.
The road allowance.
Yeah,
Yeah, in case somebody couldn't piece the
yeah,
picture. And 855 would be on the far right. Is that the boundary line of the
Yeah.
picture?
right.
Oh.
You can see in the northeast corner there, there's also a road.
Yeah,
So those two get joined by just a trail, which is pretty rough to get through. So 855.
big mud.
So we went around the perimeter and then I made two cross trails. So one, there's where you see on the road, there's an entrance to the trail, okay? And then it goes up on a hill and through the woods and over to this perimeter trail. Then where you see the kidney shape there, that's where we have sandstone. And they're all tucked into the trees. So we went around that and then across again. So there are two cross trails if someone just wants to go for a smaller walk. Okay. So the first step was to mulch. The vegetation was like this high, full of weeds and all kinds of stuff besides grasses. And then, yeah, we did mulch through some thin areas of trees. The next step was to get it chopped up because we had big mounds of vegetation and soil, so it was pretty hard to walk on. So the county made an in-kind contribution there. The town's rough cut mower is 15 feet wide. It's pretty wide.
Equipment didn't work.
And so the mulcher went 4 feet and then this rotary blade mower was only 5 feet wide, which was just perfect. Okay, now, if any of you have been there, then you'll know that there is an area to park. Just kind of goes around where people drive, right? But we could get that 15-foot mower in there to mow down an area for, you know, half a dozen vehicles. Okay, so, and here's our beautiful sandstone. Next step, trail maintenance. That's something we're gonna have to look at. Signage. So, simple signs at the entry when you come up, when you're driving down the gravel road and there's an open gate, it says no trespassing. So I would suggest we take down the no trespassing sign and put up a sign that, indicates where the nature trail is, drive through there. Also the Heritage Board will, so the signage, it's only about $100 or so for the little signs, and I imagine the town could install them. If we get this,
request?
if we get the sign. No, this is collaborative, remember, I'm allowed to talk.
No, for sure, because we'll talk about the presentations later.
Sure,
Make a
yeah.
note to make sure that.
Okay, and then,
Request for signs.
so the Heritage Board would want to have either information panels, a pamphlet, or again, a QR. Infrastructure, do we want to make the Lover's Lane traversable? Because it mostly is, but there is one section where there's a huge dip. So it would need a culvert and some fill. So that's something you might want to discuss. Do we want to have anything there like a picnic table? Don't have to, but it's an option. Okay, and the last one, what do we name our trail? So Long Lake already has a nature trail. And they call it White Earth Valley Trail, so we can't call it that.
White Earth or White Mud?
White Earth, White Earth, it's White Earth.
That goes by Mud,
Yeah,
White Mud Lake, right?
White Earth Creek goes through this property.
No, I know that, but the one at Long Lake,
Yeah,
is it White Mud Lake? Cause isn't there White Mud Lake there?
I don't know, I haven't been there.
Okay,
I just went on the internet, that's all.
sometimes the internet is not correct.
Yes.
All right, okay. So, we need to call it something. Would the council want to come up with an idea? Or do we want to put it out to the public and have a naming contest?
Well, at our discussion, we can give you what we suggested, yeah. And then-
My thought is Sandstone Meadows.
Beautiful name.
That's very nice.
Okay, any questions?
I thought you were gonna say Lover's Lane.
I really wanted you to say Lover's Lane.
Rochelle?
I'm just wondering, I think for QR codes you'd be able to measure, but how are you thinking, like, how do we measure how used this trail is? Because I mean, it sounds like there'll be a lot of maintenance that needs to go into it, investment from that standpoint, so I'm just wondering like how.
Not a lot of maintenance, cut the grass for 4 times a
From
year.
the security cameras that'll be up there.
That's a good idea, though, the QR code. can show how many-
Right, if that was on the signage,
Right.
I'm just thinking like, how do people measure if these trails are being used and if it's actually getting value?
Good question. Well, we can have inspectors go out now and then, I'm sure Hank would like to go.
Hey, we'll just sit there and take. Welcome to our community.
Dragging me into this.
All right, so Dawn, we have what we need to.
I made a list of all things. Discuss.
Yeah, perfect.
Yeah. great.
All right. Thanks again, Noreen.
Sorry.
You're welcome.
Very good. Hey, Graham.
And we'll move to our next delegation, which is, there's 7, yeah.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Morning.
What would you like me to explain about my request?
I guess all I was curious about was, the dust control. I want to clarify exactly where that was. Evelyn?
Can we please have some introductions? For the next delegation?
Mr. Kennedy, did you want us to introduce, do you know everybody at the council table?
Well, I've been here before. I pretty much know who's who,
Okay,
including him.
okay.
Yes, I'm okay with that.
You're okay, okay. Yeah, so which road were you for the dust control?
The one I'm trying to get across to you guys is 4907 East Railway Drive. It's a road going to,
The shops? The bigger-
no, it would be going to the metering station that you have.
So if I
Yeah.
may,
Yeah, she would know where.
Yeah. Thank you, you're my neighbor, right?
Yeah.
So the old, in reference to the old alfalfa plant that is now being used by the new owner as a commuter gravel.
Yeah, yes. Well, the town uses it too, to check the metering station, but they also, the sweeper goes by there to pile his stuff on there, so it pretty dusty, and then the worst part is you got prevailing west winds and it's coming right into our house. The north end of the house is just plastered with dirt. I'm looking to see what you can do to expropriate that.
Dawn mentioned that we do, or
Yeah, we've reached out to Public Works. We do it once in the spring. We do that road, but that's it.
are
There
there
is dust control applied once in spring.
ones in here? Mary Ann?
Yeah, and so I do know it's larger equipment that makes a lot of dust, but
Oh,
so
yes.
when you said when was the last time we've done it? In spring?
spring.
So it's annually, every
Annually in the
it's
spring.
done. And does that prevent the dust or?
Not for long. No, I don't know, it's gonna be something a little more, money wise, I would say.
Okay. And then the drainage issue was the other one that was. So you're talking right in front of your driveway, correct?
Right,
And
yeah,
Mary Ann?
in that, if I may, that's the pooling of water and it's East Railway Avenue. And that is,
I was gonna get to that,
yeah, so that impacts our field as well.
yes,
And I'm
Yes.
just wondering if Public Works is a number of years ago, they looked at the culvert situation, so I don't know if there's been any recent work on that culvert, perhaps it's blocked or it's not draining properly, because there is a large pool of water and then
oh,
indirectly
I
it's
call
on
it a
our
moat.
field. Yeah.
It is, it's many vehicle culverts to wash the undercarriage.
Yeah.
And somebody is going to go too fast and is gonna catch them and throw them in the ditch or roll the car or whatever. Because it's a fun thing in other words. But it's not fun to have that water in there. No, the culvert's put in the wrong place. It should have been back, way back.
So, Dawn?
Yeah.
So, again, John, our Public Works manager has said he will go out when there's some moisture to evaluate it. And then we'll take a look at it and see what needs to be done there to address the drainage
Should
situation.
be about the size of it, yes,
Yeah.
yes.
So we have that on our agenda to
Can't take
address.
my word for it, you
Yeah.
gotta look for yourself.
Well, but once we can see it, the actual pooling of the water, where it's draining to, then we can evaluate what needs to be done to address it.
Don't take too long, 'cause I'm 83 years old.
All right, I'll make notes, get on it, next rainfall.
Terry?
I was just gonna ask if we could have had it in GSI or whatever, but we're almost done.
Okay, so we do have it coming up again in our for further discussion.
Okay.
Like
Okay.
without the delegation, so
So am I gonna be notified or?
Yes.
something?
yes, yeah,
Okay,
yeah, we'll let you know what
good,
we can try to do.
I'm gonna go for my cup.
Okay.
All right,
Thank you.
Here, it's free.
Yeah, but there's no information center. He's going for his information session. Thanks, Rick.
Thank you.
You guys.
See you. Okay, so we'll move, yeah, because we talked about it here, so there's nothing to motion. We'll move to 6.1, the administrative report. Mel?
I'll just put the motion on the table that Town of Smoky Lake accept for information the administrative report for October 16th to October 30th of 2024.
Mary Ann?
So further discussion, and it's for Public Works on page 42, there's a reference that the flushed water and sewer mains. So is that just,
regular maintenance.
so the entire town was flushed or?
I don't know exactly which ones.
Specific location?
I'm not sure the exact locations. I think there's certain ones that need to be done regularly, but I think John's on a call.
Oh,
So
okay.
normally John will be here to answer these questions, but we're dealing with a. Oh, he joined?
did
Oh, John, sorry. Did you hear the question, John? piece of paper.
There we go.
And I'm mute.
You're on mute.
Still on mute, John.
No, I didn't catch that. Could you repeat that, please?
So if I may.
Yeah.
So I'm referencing in your report on page 42 that you did some flushing of the water and sewer mains. So was that a specific location or was that,
Yeah, there's a 12-inch line on the west side of town that kind of goes north to the golf course there. It's the line used to supply the reservoir from our water treatment plant, so it's a large line and there isn't a lot of flow through it, so we have to flush that one more often to make sure that the chlorine level is at the appropriate level.
if I could ask a question of admin, so do we have a regular schedule of flushing the lines for the entire town twice a year?
I don't know what's required.
Yeah, we do that one every usually every 6 months, I think, something like that. We test the chlorine to see what the level is at, and if it is on the lower side, we will just flush that main out.
So she's asking, do we flush all the water and sewer lines in town? Is there a requirement to do that? And is it a process we do, a schedule?
We don't follow a specific schedule for that, but we go based on, we test chlorine levels throughout
Okay.
town.
I see.
And we do periodically flush the mains to renew the water inside of the pipe.
As needed basis.
Yeah, basically as needed, yeah.
And that's the requirement with Alberta Water, wastewater and water.
Yeah,
I
to
don't have nowhere to
maintain the
pick.
proper chlorine level.
Okay. Any other questions? Mel?
I just wanted to say how happy I was to see the outdoor rink in October instead of January. So that was awesome.
Yeah, it uses pegs that we have to drive into the ground, so we want to do that early before the ground freezes or there's any snow buildup.
Any other questions? All right, if there's no other questions, I will call the question on Mel's motion. All in favor? Anyone opposed, so carried. And then we'll now move to our deferred items in business, 7.1, which would be our delegations, Smoky Lake Heritage Board. Do I need to remove? I don't really have any. No, I don't, because I just did.
With, because you're paid on the board, but this is about a separate potential committee. My recommendation on this one, because we've talked about a few different things, would be maybe move this to a budget discussion. So we're talking about additional staff. We've talked previously about, do we need a business plan? Do we need some grants? So that was gonna be my recommendation. Love the ideas.
No?
Yeah, I think putting it at a budget meeting, but I really like the idea of having a small committee. So I would actually like to make a motion here. Now, I did have one question, if it's okay with everybody if I ask Noreen a question. Noreen, is, when you're talking about the committee, are you just talking about a small committee between the town and the Heritage Board?
Yes.
Strictly?
Mhm.
Now, you had mentioned about other historic sites, so did you want to
Great, so
include?
later in November, I'll be speaking with the county,
Okay,
but I've already written a letter to them asking if they would hire a summer student.
I was just wondering if you wanted to include in that committee, the county as well.
Yes, just at this
Yeah.
point, I can't state that, but
And
Yeah.
I could make it in the
It would
motion,
make
though, to
sense, though, to
invite
have-
the county.
it makes sense though to have the county involved.
Okay, thank you. Sorry.
Maria, did you?
Yeah, and to add to that, would you consider making another motion to book or have a tour with admin or with Maureen before winter, so we can get a better context of what we're establishing in the community.
Well, my other question, is you are currently on the Heritage Board. Would we like to set that, like the other person, maybe have 2 representatives? Would we like to set that today?
Yeah, the alternate, right? Amy's the alternate for the Heritage Board.
I thought Melody was the
No, I'm
alternate.
not.
I am.
Yeah, I'm not on that. I was
And
Mary, no, Terry?
is that a voluntary board or is it paid?
Hey.
It is.
Really? So I'll get paid too?
Oh, the one right now?
He's talking about the. So I think I'll start with, I'd like to make the motion, that the town work with the Heritage Board, and possibly the county to create a committee for the, future of the CN station and other heritage, sites.
Okay, separate motions?
Okay.
Okay, all in favor?
I'm just creating a committee.
Right, but when she said separate motions, what's the second?
Oh, sorry. And then the second was for the tour.
Oh,
Go ahead. No.
And my next motion would be to, for council to take a tour of the CN station, directed by Maureen, potentially after our next council meeting on November 25th.
I was gonna suggest that date, is it up and running still at that time?
No,
It's not ready now.
Okay, but it's, okay,
It's up, it's just not running.
Yeah,
good. It's not open.
right.
Yeah, heat's on, everything is working. It's just-
Budget. Done?
oh,
Dawn?
So I was just gonna point out the 25th is budget and council. Just so you're aware what you're booking. Book it before the budget meeting,
Yeah,
basically start the morning. Start that at 9 and then if that works for budget at 10.
We'll go at lunchtime. Well. Take sandwiches to go with us.
Bring you to go at lunch.
I'd rather not do lunch.
if everybody's comfortable with the before
Yeah,
9
I would rather.
9 o'clock.
So the town of Smoky Lake book a tour with the Heritage Board and Council at 9 AM on November 25th.
All in favor? None opposed, so carried. Marianne?
So then, I'll do the motions on page 43. And, so at this time, I'd like to move that the town of Smoky Lake accept for information the presentation from Ms. Noreen Easterbrook on behalf of the Smoky Lake Heritage Board, and thank you.
All in favor? None opposed, so carried. Just defer, yeah, carry on.
And then the second motion, I move that the town of Smoky Lake defer discussion on trail maintenance to the November 25th, 2024 budget meeting in regards to the letter sent by Mrs. Noreen Easterbrook on October 11th, 2024.
All in favor? None opposed, so carried. Okay, Evelyn?
I'd like to make a motion, if you don't mind, to ask Noreen, you said, Noreen, there's a no trespassing sign?
Yeah.
Was it just the one?
Yes.
Okay, so I'd like to make a motion that we ask Public Works to remove that no trespassing sign.
Carrie?
I think what was happening is there was some garbage dumping happening in that area. I don't know if it was actually on our land, and I believe that's why there was some of that stuff put up, just some brief history.
Oh, is that the history on
I think so.
it? No? Oh, sorry, Marianne's first.
I don't think I'd support a motion at this time because until we have other signage in place and we're naming it, I think we're rushing to do that at this time. Even though based on Noreen and Graham's guesstimate that it is up and running. But there still needs to be some final details with the signage.
Yeah, it would be better to have everything.
And security.
Okay, then I will withdraw the motion.
Everybody's okay? So we'll move to 7.2, second delegation. Terry?
I'll move that the Town of Smoky Lake Public Works Foreman meets with Mr. Semenik and discusses the road and the water issue in front of his property.
Great, Dawn, or should we add?
Yes, if we're already doing the dust control, I guess that would be, yeah, we could start there though, and then we can bring, and bring back information to council so that there's some
Bring
follow.
pictures back and stuff for better detail of what's going on, because he did mention something about the sweeper going by.
Yeah, so I think if we bring it back, then it allows us to further address it rather than just saying, okay, Public Works is dealing with it. Let's make sure that we know,
Bring the information back to council.
yeah, on what
We
we're
could add that
doing.
into there.
Is that
No.
Yeah, I do have to comment that once a year dust control doesn't work, so it goes down, because we dust control my alley as well, and if you have a year that is not, yeah. Too much rain or not enough, it doesn't last, so, and depending on the traffic, of course, that goes down, and so
we'll add dust control as a budget.
I might wanna look at it and budget.
So then to add to what Terry said, would we at this time, could we direct Public Works to look at that culvert? Because subsequently, what he's saying is correct, and I believe I have some photos, because it impacts the field where there's so much water, nothing grows, right? So.
And that's what this is, right? We're gonna look at it. It's also like I mentioned when Mr. Samming was here, is that it's easier for them to see what the issue is when there's actual water there. So sometimes these things take some time, especially this time of year, because we might not get some good drainage until in the winter or into the spring even. But we gotta look at the area at the very least and look at where the culverts are and then see if there's any issues with any of them to start with, and then.
Thank you.
I agree with you to a certain extent, but now is the time for them to take some shots for level when there is no water to see. So, and speaking with Mr. Semenik, he's lived there for how many years? I think his experience will be
Yeah.
more than fun sitting
Sounds
there.
good.
Thank you.
Yeah, we will look at it. Thank you.
Okay, so with the amendments made to Terry's motion, I'll call the question. All in favor? None opposed, so carried. And we'll move to Rochelle's presentation for the Family and Community Support Services.
Okay, you can all see it okay?
Yeah.
Perfect. All right. So thank you very much for asking me to present today. I appreciate it. Today's presentation is really centered on understanding how we're currently set up in the town of Smoky Lake, and then how that stacks up against the rest of the region, and then exploring the opportunity about regionalization. So I'll start with the government of Alberta, through the Ministry of Community and Social Services, outlines key priorities that then acts as kind of the guiding light of FCSS work across the province. So in 2023, the 5 priorities that were outlined are listed here. So homelessness, mental health, employment challenges, family and sexual violence, as well as aging well in community. And I just touched on 2 key things that I think is important. Is one is that those priorities from the government's perspective does not undermine or minimize our need to be able to localize what that looks like at the community level. So that's really where the power of FCSS comes into play. And the second thing I would say is there's not always a direct correlation between the work we're doing on the ground and one of these priorities. So sometimes it can be a little bit more obscure. So if you're looking at a youth council, for example, and you're working on leadership development, that could actually be something that's laddering up to employment challenges because you're preparing that next generation. So it's not always like, here's the priority and this is exactly what we're doing, boots on the ground for that. So with that, that's a little bit of the grounding from Alberta's perspective. For the town itself, you guys are pretty familiar with the work that we do, and so I'll move through the next few slides pretty quickly so that we can have more conversation in regards to the actual regional model and what that could look like. But we know that our FCSS in the town of Smoky Lake is grounded with the help and support of an advisory board, and right now we have 11 members on that board. 4 of those are representatives from the county. We meet on a monthly basis, and last year we actually did a lot of focus as a board in taking advantage of the government's free resources through the community development unit to be able to do some workshops to really outline our vision, our mission, and our values, which we felt was really important in setting out the right foundation to then be able to leverage that as we're making decisions about what's in or out of scope in regards to the work that we're doing. Any questions so far? Good. Okay. So when I think about the work that we're doing from FCSS in the town, there's 3 key pillars. So one is community capacity development, one is seniors and aging while at home, and then lastly, family, children, and youth. And so from a community capacity development, those are more of the universal programs that you'll see impact everybody, like our food basket program. That's a great example of something that everybody in the community could access. What I will highlight here is something that many people probably get tired of hearing me talk about this, but I have a mad passion for wanting to see us be able to bring in a community needs assessment. It hasn't been done in depth, and these are can be grant funded, but they are more expensive. So if you look at communities that are doing this with like a contractor, then it's usually 25 to 30,000. So it's not a cheap investment, but a lot of the communities will leverage these deep community needs assessments to be able to actually prioritize what their social needs strategies will look like moving forward. From a seniors and older adults perspective, as you guys know, we sit in one of the communities that has one of the highest senior populations across Alberta per capita. So we have about 45% over 65 years of age, whereas on average, if you're looking across the province, it's usually 15 to 30%. So we are on the higher end of that. So when we look at some of our priorities, obviously this is one of the key things that we need to kind of maintain as top in front of our area of focus. Some of the things that we've been looking at is senior transportation with Drive Happiness, doing things like the men's shed. But we know there's a lot more work to do. We have recently applied for another New Horizon grant in hopes that we can get subsidized opportunities to be able to provide things like lawn mowing and snow shoveling at an affordable rate, as well as Meals on Wheels. And then lastly is children and youth and families. And so this falls within the FCSS landscape and mandate, but we also receive the benefit of having our Family Resource Network, which really underpins the work that we're doing. And so Family Resource Network is a separate grant, but it is specifically designed to be able to help us develop programs and services specific to those with children between the ages of 0 to 18 years of age. Now, I would just say, like, when we think about regionalizing, one of the things that if you look at like the county, Wassetna or Vilna, they do not have an FRN. Our FRN was applied for prior to my time, but it was applied for with a regional lens. So it was set up in a way that would support regionalization if we ever moved forward with that. This is just, a lot of people get a little bit confused about how our Family Resource Network operates. So I only wanted to provide a visual to say, when we say hub and spoke model, it means that we're working in a network. And so we are one piece of the puzzle. And so our spoke is focused on child capacity development, but it's universal programming. That means it's not targeted. I partner very closely with Healthy Families, Healthy Futures and WJS, and they provide targeted services. So a quick hit example of that is we were invited in April to go to the open houses at the school. I went to the Vilna school. The home visitor from Healthy Families, Healthy Futures opened up a case file, started working with this family, and I also invited them to join our universal programming. So this family started to get wraparound services from our network as a whole. So that's just one example of many of how we try to operate together to be able to meet the different needs and personalize our approach. Question? Good? Okay, so this is where you guys are all waiting to ask questions at this part. I know. Okay, so FCSS in our region. So our region is not unique in the sense of what you'll find is that there's multiple different models that sit within it. And this is how FCSSs have the liberty or the freedom across the province to be set up differently. So some can operate as their own nonprofit, many, as we are a department of their municipality. There's pros and cons to these different models. A lot of the times what you'll find in the metro, so like in the Edmonton, the Calgary, you'll find that the FCSSs are following a grant out model, which means that they're working with different organizations, so they're not doing direct programming themselves. They're taking that FCSS dollar and then they're funding it through the different nonprofits that are doing the work so that they're not duplicating efforts and they're just empowering those organizations to deepen their impact. So Smoky Lake County, for example, follows that model. So there's two key things that the Smoky Lake County does. One is they grant out to different nonprofits, and the other is a substantial contribution to their family school liaison position. In the town of Smoky Lake, we do direct programming. There has been historically opportunity where there has been grant out done. However, in the last 3 years, we've been doing direct programming only. And then in the village of Wissett and the village of Vilna, it's a bit of a, I'd say, dual approach, like they do a little bit of both, and especially in the village of Vilna where they're now leveraging their librarian to do some more direct programming. The other thing that I will highlight here is you'll see a difference in regards to partnerships. So I believe like in small communities, one of the key differentiators in being able to do more with less is being able to develop strong partnerships and identify what partnerships like Drive Happiness or Cyber Seniors could be able to help us achieve our mission with less manpower on the ground. And so this is something that I think, depending on the model, you see differentiation in regards to people acquiring partnerships as a growth strategy versus not. So I'm going to stop there and just open it up for questions.
No. Well. So the regional approach that you would be looking at, what would the partnerships look like from like the county who grants out versus the villages who do kind of a blended? So if we were looking at a regional approach, what would we be asking of those communities to come together?
So I do think that like it would be a little bit of like a staged approach. Like I don't think we're just gonna like flip the switch and everything is gonna go immediately, right? But the power of regionalizing is pooling together your funding to be able to streamline where your dollars are going. So I think one of the biggest benefits that we see in other multi-municipal models is that when you look at that streamlined funding, you make sure that you're minimizing any duplication. You're increasing accessibility to programming. And then I would say also with grants, like we know that there's power in numbers. So when you have a bigger region and you're applying for grants, the opportunity for you to be able to get larger funding and more frequent funding would be greater. And so those are kind of the key things. I think when we look at what we would be asking, so I think it would be a discussion that would need to be had about who would be the managing partner. I believe that because the town already has, and Dawn, you can correct me, because the town already has such a heavily focused FCSS prominence that potentially we would make a great managing partner for the region. But I think we would definitely need to look at, okay, once we pull together the funding, what does that look like? And there is kind of the key area of opportunity that we would need to look at in all of this is, what does that mean to the family school liaison position,
Yeah.
right? And so, yeah, sorry. Oh. I'm not good at that, sorry.
You're starting your meetings. So just to further on that, for instance, the county, so at the town, we have our FCSS funding, and then we also budget for funds to be donated out to different groups. The county uses their FCSS funds to donate to other groups. So it would be talking about that aspect of, are they willing to budget extra funds for those donations so that the FCSS funds could stay within FCSS? And number two, as the family school liaison, there's a lot of different FCSSs that approach that differently. And even within the same school division, where they're contributing less to family school liaison, and then the school's contributing more compared to, so maybe there's a way to change that, and that would be purely whether the county's willing to consider. So that's the starting discussions, is changing how they look at FCSS, adding to their budget for, so again, the idea, intention is, now that we've presented here, and we have the ICC motion from last year, is that we would actually, as per request from the administrators, is that Rochelle would do this presentation. I will go with her as support to the other municipalities, and then I'm thinking we'll see what the feedback is, or there were any motions that come from there, if there's even support for this.
No. Yeah, that's what my question was, a very leading question, because to be honest, you're gonna go do this presentation. I'm very much for regional on this FCSS, but my I guess my point is what is gonna be, what's gonna make the Smoky Lake County want to be regional when we already provide all of our programming, they get all the benefit of it already. Like, it's a hard sell to something when we're already doing it, because we don't restrict any of the programming to town of Smoky Lake. It's for everybody, right? So it would be like to try and find the benefit to keep, how can we leverage those funds, right?
I'll let
Okay.
Rochelle just answer that.
I would just say quickly on that note, I do think that at this time, we've been tracking not only the amount of supports, system navigation support that I provide, but also when we host events and programs, what's the split? And right now, it's about 60 to 65% coming from outside of the town. And so I do think that we are now getting to a point where if it doesn't regionalize, then we would need to do either one of two options, a chargeback model where we're saying there's a certain percentage, because there's nobody else out there that's going to be able to assist. So you don't want to be like, no, you're from the county, I'm not going to help you. Like, that's just not great community well-being. So I don't believe that that's the right model, but I do think if they do not want to regionalize, then there's got to be some kind of chip back into what does that actually look like long-term? Because the way that we're doing it today is not sustainable for what the town is putting in versus the services that are being provided.
Marianne?
Yeah, and thank you. I support everything that you're saying, and the presentation that you've prepared is quite amazing, and creating that awareness, right? I don't believe that at this time, the villages or the county know that attendance of the programs is a large percentage of county residents and families, but so understanding the funding model, the government is part of it, right? So the 80% funded by the government, and then the 20% by the town. So at this time, there was some wider discussions at the provincial level that they would change the funding to the 70-30, and that could impact basic programming as well. Can you elaborate any more on that? And my question to you at this time, is there where we're at now, going into a budget meeting on November 25th, would there be any budget implications forecasted from you at this time?
I don't think that at this time there is. I would say if we would have been having these conversations, last year, like, I think maybe there would have been. I think right now we're laying the stage for what that could look like, but this even if we decide after these conversations to move forward with regionalizing, it takes time, including going back to the government and renegotiating what that multi grant would look like. So in my mind, like even when I am looking ahead, like I'm looking at 2026, 2027. Sorry. 2026, 2027 as being like an initial start. So that would give us like basically all of next year to work through what would that look like. So I believe that if we were looking at this to move forward, then it would definitely have implications to budget post that. And in regards to the governmental changes with the budget, I think we're in early discussions of that, and so I think it's too early to say, but definitely we'll continue to work closely with the association and with the Northeast directors to understand how that impacts us specifically. And the only other thing I will say is like, just so that you guys have this data point, is that right now, in 2023, there was 198 grants signed for FCSS across Alberta, and 18% of those are multi right now, so regionalized. And so they are starting to see this number increase. However, the association has not done enough analysis to be able to share greater data points, but they just were able to share that right now there's 18% that are currently functioning in a multi-faceted aspect. And then the only other thing that I would add in regards to is like, if you look at Smoky Lake County for the family school liaison position, right now, the county FCSS dollars is contributing 77% of that overall role. Okay, so, and that role is reporting into Aspen View, which is, I'm not knocking the position, I'm not knocking the model, I'm just giving you guys the data points so that you can understand a little bit of the differentiation of what that looks like. In Thornhill, for example, the FCSS county is doing 27%, and then the municipality county is doing 50%. So together, they're still kind of in that same range. However, that FSLW worker is reporting directly to the Thornhill Community Director. In Athabasca, they FCSS are contributing 70% of those dollars going towards, but that person also reports directly to FCSS. So each model looks and feels a little bit differently, but in the work that I've been doing, I have yet to see a model where FCSS is contributing 75% and has no reporting lines or no direct kind of attachment to that role. And so again, my biggest thing and what I want to make sure that people are clear about is I am a big believer in this role, and no conversation when we're talking about regionalizing are we trying to say we want to eliminate that role. That is not the goal, but the goal is to say, hey, Aspen View, I think that there's opportunity here for us to renegotiate what this looks like. Why are we contributing so much more than other communities and having less say about what this influence is overall? And so those are the conversation points to be had around this conversation. And so again, big supporter of this role and the sustainability of that, no matter where we go in these regionalization conversations, it's important for that to be clear. But I do think that as we progress, now is a great time for us to start looking at how do we do more with less when we see the increased needs of FCSS across the region continuing to evolve.
Okay. So I guess your next steps are to talk to the rest.
Yeah, so I have been reaching out I want to have this conversation. I was grateful for the opportunity to share. And then we have been reaching out to get on council for Vilna and Wasatna as well as the county. So it looks like we should be able to get all of that done before the new year. So.
So this was before the ICC, so now this is a decision that was made by the CAOs to go approach it this way instead. And does that mean it's falling off the ICC or what's going, so where are we? I'm a little bit confused by who's doing what and where, but although that is in no way a critique of, I think it's great that you are presenting.
Yeah,
The municipality
understand.
and probably should have been done, but it did come before ICC, so I'd like to know where we're at with that.
So there was a motion to push the ICC, which the bylaw states within 30 days, they have to respond and have a meeting. Of course, there was the changeover and the interim CAO and then an emphasis on or prioritizing the fire ICC.
Yeah.
So then once Kevin Lucas started with the county, we had an administrators meeting and I brought up that we needed to get this moving again, that we have this standing motion. And all the CAOs in the room, like the other three CAOs, suggested it would be better received, they thought, by their councils if it actually was a discussion or a presentation and discussion at each council level, and then followed up with that ICC meeting was requested last year. So it has not fallen off there, that will still happen, so I'm thinking into January, which might fit well with the whole fire thing, hopefully, and then we can move on, yeah. And then at least have a conversation there and see if it's something that we get any traction on or. Yeah, okay.
Thanks, right? Evelyn, do you want to make a motion to accept these engagements and
I'll move that the town of Smoky Lake accept. Where is? Thanks. The town of Smoky Lake accept for information the presentation by Rochelle Amiotti, Town Director of Family and Community Support Services at CSS, to discuss the potential regionalization of family and community support services at CSS.
all in favor? So carried.
Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
See you later.
Can you take a quick break? Yeah.
Thank you. Thanks, Graham.
Yes. Right, I'll call the meeting back to order at 11:23. And we'll move to the 7.4 Region Assessment Services Commission, and I'll ask it to John.
And I apologize, Councillor Crowes, I'm still not 100% clear on the concerns that were brought up. So I'll just say that at this point, I'm looking for a motion to support entering to the agreement with Crafts. That's the agreement that was entered in 2021, which I believe is what you were referencing in terms of changes, but again, I'm not 100% sure. And then what happens is once we notify them that we want to continue with them, then they would give us the appointment. So we would then appoint I think it's in February. Crask is one of the services you can use for addressing assessment reviews. You can do them internally. You can hire contractors. We do Crask. So that's the Capital Region Assessment Services Commission. And with that, we should also not be meeting our CARB and LARB members either, because these guys take care of everything for us. And then appoint with panel members from the province, so.
No?
Make a recommendation that the town of Smoky Lake approve to execute the Capital Regional Assessment Services Commission memorandum of agreement for years 2025 to 2027 for the local assessment review board, Composite Assessment Review Board, that will provide specific administrative and financial services relating to assessment review boards to the member. Whereas the commission and the member will provide such administrative and financial services to the member.
Evelyn, friendly amendment? And that is to add, in keeping with the MGA RSA 2000 CM-26.
And what does that mean?
This is we're legislated to it, so in keeping with the MGA. And
Number again?
Right there. What is that?
Two
What should be in a
thousand
motion?
DM 26.
Some municipalities reference bylaws and legislation in their motions. So if you want to add that, it doesn't hurt anything.
Okay.
We're not appointing them but we can through, the MGA allows us to.
As long as it's not restricting.
It doesn't hurt the motion.
Okay.
I'm comfortable with that amendment.
I'll call the question. All in favor? None opposed, so carried. 8.1, an additional dogs park location.
I don't know if this is something you want to consider at all. It was something that one of our employees said, are we looking at the old school location, which is the portion of land the town now or will own? It's still going through the subdivision process. Part of it also came with one of our other employees, Carly. It was actually mentioned that she saw a dog park where there was a playground nearby. And we thought the value of that in that you could go to the dog park with your dogs and have your kids play in the park. There's some value in that recreation area. It's close to downtown. My hesitation with this location is we haven't really decided what the future plan is for it. But we wanted to, just because we use it as an alternate location for tonight's open house, doesn't mean we're committed to that. We'll be bringing it back to the next council meeting. So I don't even know if you want to consider it at this point.
Barry?
So this area on the map, is that tentatively what will be our property?
That is what will be our property.
That
Yes,
is-
that's a
that's-
subdivision. That's the paperwork.
That's just-
thing. Yeah.
And secondly, where are we holding this tonight?
Curling Club.
Curling Club
Cause
at
I
5.
didn't see anything up there.
Should be in your calendar invite. You're
It
not.
said to be determined.
Oh.
Did it? I thought it said Curling Club. Oh. Maybe I just. Mary Ann, you had a question.
Yeah, so, I probably would support the motion at this time, and, two things. I'd like to just request a recap when we identified the parcel of land 911, Wheatland, or sorry, 911 Railway Avenue. What location on, or what part of that parcel of land were we thinking about?
I mean, it's very open. My thought was the more the south end, away from the highway.
Okay, and just for consideration for tonight, not to be more aware of what we're looking at. At this time, I think it would be up to council. I think we should look at how we can better the outcome of the open house tonight. We should have something brought back to council with the Lions members present. We haven't seen or heard from them for a long time, and I'd like to know what their next steps are and talk more about the budget. So I think there may be a subsequent motion after that, but at this time, I'd like to put the recommendation motion on the floor.
Okay, you can put that on the floor and then Donald.
So I move that the town of Smoky Lake add the south portion of lands legally recognized as plan number 2975 MC Lot K to the list of potential dog park locations for the dog park open house to be held on November 4th, 2024 at 5 p.m.
And Don, you wanted to address?
So this evening, just as addition to that, and I won't speak on Irene's behalf, I have a little bit of information, but I agree it would be good for them to come in. I did invite Irene to join tonight and then have a location where residents could tell her what they'd like to see at the dog park and her to present some of that information. And then we'll have 5 stations set up of the 5 different locations that are being proposed this evening with kind of a list of the pros and cons that were in the original RFD that came, I think, last year. And then the idea being that, you know, administration would tell staff, residents as they come in, this isn't about whether or not we're having a dog park, this is about choosing the location, and we welcome you to wander around, speak with some counselors, talk about what you'd like to see, and then there's also forms for them to fill out. So then we'll bring it back to, and that's about what location they like, why they like it, what locations they don't like, anything they want to add, and then we'll bring it back to the November 25th meeting for discussion, just to update while we're on the topic.
Mine is also a little off topic, but not really. I just want to know if it's going to interfere, the location that's proposed for 911, if it interferes with the court maze.
It could potentially, the one, I don't know exactly how far down our land is there. Does the Corps Maze go to the very bottom of our section of the land?
No.
So then,
No.
no, I feel like it goes,
There's
land is
there's
further.
more of a triangle south of the communities that's still out.
so we try to impact it as little as possible, but we'd have to look at that exactly. And again, if that's one of the higher ones, we can bring back more information on exactly how it will impact and that's another reason I thought south, and then they could move the Corps Maze also a little further north, but you want to be careful with that highway.
No, they're all the
So-
way north. They can't move it any farther. No, it's all the way to the north side, yes.
No, they can't.
That's what we say, they can't.
Okay.
Yeah.
That corn maze discussion is coming back to us in an agreement form, right?
No,
'Cause
we already have an agreement in place with them.
And is there an expiry on that agreement?
Well, it's a brand new agreement, so we just signed
Yeah, we
it.
just-
I think it was a 5-year, maybe 3-year, 3 or 5 year, but we just signed it this year.
Anyways, I didn't want to open a can of worms, sorry, just wanted information for tonight.
Yeah, sorry. Okay, I'll call the question. All in favor? None opposed, so carried. And 10.1, mayor and councillor and committee reports. Marianne?
So, I have two, verbal updates I'd like to provide at this time. And, so from my report, there was the Water Commission meeting. And at that time, it was determined at that meeting that, two things came out of the meeting. Kevin Lucas, the county CAO, was appointed the commission manager. And the second outcome of the meeting was that at this time, the Highway 2863 Water Commission would not be contracting out to an external contractor. They would remain, the Smoky Lake County will remain as the managing partner and the commission manager at this time. So the second thing I'd like to bring forward is that Alberta Hub, another committee that I'm an alternate of, they're requesting that the communities do the regional survey to create the community profile. So I'm not sure if our administration is in front of that or completing that. So
Yes,
okay,
yes.
thank you.
Terry?
A question when it comes back to the 2863. Is it, they're not a managing partner, the commission pays them to operate. So it's not like Ukrainian twinning or stuff like that. It's a separate contract with the county.
Okay.
The commission is. Just a
Clarification?
Would you like me to change the
No.
wording on that? or-
No, because it wasn't a motion, it was just information.
Yeah,
Okay, so would you like me to change how I
Okay.
present it?
Okay.
your motion, Terry.
I'll move the council to accept for information, mayor, councilor, and committee reports. Single item A and follows Deputy Mayor Mary Ann Hodgson, Tuesday, October 15th, 2024.
All in favor? None opposed, so carried. And we'll move to correspondence requiring action, 11.1. Saskatchewan Watershed Alliance membership. Evelyn?
I'll make the motion that the town of Smoky Lake approve the North Saskatchewan Watershed Alliance NSWA 2025 membership in the amount of $566.40 to be funded from the 2025 operating budget entitled Municipal Membership Fees in reference to the letter from Stephanie Neufeld, Chair, North Saskatchewan Watershed Alliance, dated October 15th, 2024.
Any discussion? Not a further question, all in favor? Any opposed? None opposed, so carried. 11.2, Smoky Lake Region Branch number 327 requested donation for the Remembrance Day ceremony. No?
The town's, make motion that the town of Smoky Lake approved to provide a donation to the Royal Canadian Legion Smoky Lake branch number 227 for their annual Remembrance Day event held on November 11, 2024 at the Smoky Lake Agricultural Complex located at 4612 54th Avenue in Smoky Lake by purchasing 8 dozen donuts for the Remembrance Day event to be funded from the 2024 operating budget entitled grants to individuals, organizations in reference to a letter received by Bernadette Delphi, Smoky Lake branch number 227 dated October 22nd, 2024.
No?
This is, as I was going over my agenda, I just had a question. And I don't know if anybody knows the answer to it. So the Legion, and I would like to start with, I'm in full support of this motion. But does anybody know so when the poppies and things go out, does that go somewhere to? Okay, and so when they host fundraisers at the pumpkin fair, does that go to our Legion then specifically? Like, and what do they do with their funds, is my question.
Very nice.
Okay, so they go to what is identified as Legion Local Branch 227. That money stays in the community and they do different events at the Legion. Okay. As far as I know, Okay, so.
Terry?
And they also do support of veterans in
Oh.
That was kind of my question. Was it like more of a local or is it more of a region? Like, I just wasn't sure.
Marianne?
So there's the
I did try to
national
Google it.
campaigns that they align with, and then the in place fundraisers that they do or support it, they run it just like a president, vice president, a regular nonprofit agency. So I was gonna ask a question of admin, at this time, did we receive any were we asked to participate at the ceremony or lay a wreath?
No, I think this was just the request that we've received so far.
No communication at this time. Terry?
I think that's a standing invitation for the town, I believe.
Yeah.
As far as I understood, but
I'll call the question on motion on the table. All in favor? None opposed or carried. 11.3 request, 2026 local government fiscal framework capital allocation. Carried.
I'll move that the town of Smoke Lake acknowledge receipt of the email dated October 25th, 2024, sent by the Honorable Rick McIver, Minister of Municipal Affairs, regarding the 2026 local government fiscal framework program capital allowance, of which Smoky Lake will be allocated $359,733 in 2026.
All in favor? None opposed or carried. Then we'll move to 13.1, Christmas light up street closure request. Marianne?
I'd like to move that the town of Smoky Lake approve the temporary street closure on November 29th from 5 p.m. until 8 p.m. on the Willow Creek Street from Wheatland Avenue to MacDougall Drive in Smoky Lake for the Christmas light up event as requested by Michelle Wright, Vice President of the Smoky Lake Chamber of Commerce, dated October 31st, 2024.
All in favor? None opposed or carried. Right, I just want to clarify for lunch, because we have staff here. Do we go till 12:30? Do we go? What's acceptable for staff?
Do we think we can get through this agenda and then have lunch?
Yeah,
Is her question.
I just don't want it to go till 1
Yeah,
and then.
let's just see how it's.
Okay,
Yeah.
I just wondering what the cutoff is, so I can call the cutoff.
Yeah, I think eventually, staff probably should eat, but I think we could.
12:30.
Okay, we're going a little late, and yeah,
Okay.
seeing if we can get through the agenda, I agree.
Okay, as long as that's fine, I just.
Certainly, yeah.
All right, we will get a motion to go into closed.
Make that motion.
Evelyn, all right, all in favor? Anyone opposed?
Hold on.
Oh,
She needs to read the thing.
yes, sorry. Oh, yeah. Almost good.
Sorry about that. Okay, I'd like to wait, good, we'll go showing never do a closed session. That the town of Smoky Lake go into closed session to discuss the following matters pursuant to the Freedom of Information and Protection of Privacy Act, FOIP, at legal, public auction properties, FOIP section 27, privileged information, tax service, FOIP section 16, disclosure harmful to business interests of a third party, land sale, FOIP section 16, disclosure harmful to business interests of a third party, municipally controlled corporation, MCC, FOIP section 16, disclosure harmful to business interests of a third party, FOIP section 21, intergovernmental relations, 14.2, legal, public auction properties, 14.3, tax service, 14.4, land sale, 14.5, municipally controlled corporation, MCC, 14.6, curling rink, third party, 14.7, pumpkin patch daycare, FOIP 27, and 14.8, personnel use. Okay. Did you want to make a friendly amendment to what I missed?
You didn't
No,
miss
you
that.
didn't miss, the first part of 14.1 is 14.2 to 14.5 is confusing, if that makes sense. But anyway,
There's my.
yeah.
You got it all.
You overcovered it,
How's
yeah.
coffee?
That's all the question.
All in favor?
Real green.
None opposed? Okay. All right, I'll get a motion to come out of closed session. Carrie,
I would come out.
all right, 14.2, legal public option properties. I believe, Evelyn, you were gonna, yes, 72.
I'll make the motion that the town of Smoky Lake accept for information the update on the municipal acquisitions from the public tax auction and proceed as discussed in closed as, and, oh, sorry, I'm gonna put a comma in there, comma, proceed as discussed in closed, comma, and bring back to council next steps to the next, to the November 25th regular council meeting.
All in favor? Opposed and carried. 14.3, carried.
I'll move that the town of Smoky Lake file for information, the tax service review and today's report of the.
All in favor? Any opposed, carried. 14.4, land sale. I think John, yeah, no. Who's the second for this one? MCC.
Nope. Yes, I think just accept.
Yeah.
Let's make a motion to accept the information provided regarding land sale
And bring back to budget.
and bring back to budget discussions.
Right. All in favor? None opposed, so carried. 14.5, MCC, Mary Ann.
I move that the town of Smoky Lake seek legal advice regarding the municipally controlled corporation as discussed in closed session.
Wait, no, there was no additional.
You read my writing?
Yeah, but I think it's
there was
okay. I don't think
You're
we're-
good?
yes.
Okay.
All in favor? None opposed, so carried. And we'll move, and then 14.6, Burling Road, section 16. Or Mel?
Dawn's gonna read it for me.
That to bring back, the discussion of the future of the curling rink building to the next council meeting.
All in favor? None opposed, so carried. 14.7, daycare.
Bring back any motions relating to the daycare from between 2017 and 2024 to the next council meeting.
All in favor?
Oh, I can't make the motion.
Mary Ann's motion is amendment. Would you like the way I told my voice over there? All in favor of Mary Ann? None opposed, carried. 14.8, personnel. Carrie?
I'll move to accept information provided in regards for personnel policy.
All in favor? None opposed, or carried. And meeting is adjourned at 1:49.